starvation, and extremely difficult living conditions. They are often crowded into small. My husband often speaks to me about his own experience, which has left him deeply traumatized. He was subjected to routine beatings. His cell was so tiny that he didn't have space to sit down. It was very cold and damp. To the families. International humanitarian medical organizations must be allowed to examine the health situation of detainees and to provide medical services, identifying and releasing all detained individuals as part of any peace process. Monitored by an international independent body. Courts, especially field, war and counter-terrorism courts, must be abolished and fair trials guaranteed under UN supervision.
He wasn't involved directly in any.
My husband was detained in September 2011. He is a doctor. Just he was treating people who were injured in the peaceful demonstration. Later, after he was released, we moved to Jordan. At that time, I can see the suffering of the family of any detainees in Syria. He was very traumatized after he was released from the prison. Also, I have my brother, my father-in-law, 7 of my cousins are still missing. And we are, as a family, we cannot feel comfortable with this life of inconsistency, and you know nothing about the fate of your loved ones. So it's continuous suffering, yes. Yeah, 7 years. I didn't hear anything about them. We don't know that if they are still alive or not. So it's very hard to, because this vague condition is very difficult, because you couldn't even make sure that he is died or is still alive, and to feel this pain is very difficult. They didn't allow him to go to the restroom if he wants just one time. He was prevented from contacting anybody for 40 days, till he moved to another detention center. At that time I was pregnant, and I don't know about his situation, and as yes, it's very hard. I couldn't imagine, because I am personally involved with the survivor of torture, and they told me a lot about the experience they have met in the prisons or detention centers. And every day I'm just remember what they saying to me, and maybe my brother and my cousins, my father-in-law are suffering the same, because it's systematic torture in the regime centers, prisons. Yeah. Yes, because we try to provide some psychological support to these detainees. One of the hardest story I'm never been heard from one of them, that he forced to stay in the prison with dead bodies for a few days, and they didn't allow him to go out this room. And you can imagine that it's difficult for a prisoner to see this dead body with him, and how can imagine maybe his fate, it will be the same. So it's very hard to see. And I'm also heard about stories from women, and how they were subjected to different types of torture and GBV, sexual harassment, even children subjected to the same. So no one in the regime centers, detention centers, maybe away from this torture or systematic bad treatment. Yes.
When did you leave Syria?
I left Syria. Yeah, I left Syria early at the end of 2011. After my husband was released from the prison, I live now in Turkey. More than 100,000 of detainees are still missing in Syria. So, and I'm sure that the number is more than, because the fear of the families to just document or to register their missing person prevent them from, or prevent us to have the real number of these detainees. I'm now from co-founder of the movement of a movement, Families for Freedom. We are campaigns for the release of all detainees with all the parties of the conflict.